Stay with me.
Okay.
Wait, should we put some music on or something?
Why?
Or is it going to be too distracting?
Music? What kind of music?
Something very mellow.
Okay. Pick something.
Something like 07.
07? I don't think that I've heard of that.
You haven't heard?
No, I have not.
Let's see if we can find something, and we're going to listen to this later.
Okay. So what kind of music is 07?
07 is what they call trip hop or downbeat.
Ooh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably other names that you could call it too.
Yeah. So hopefully our friends will be able to hear this. So, okay.
But it shouldn't overpower our voices.
No, it should not.
Welcome to the Freeman Cast.
So, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Freeman Cast. This is Daniel, your usual host. Josh is in Istanbul at the moment, doing something. We'll talk about that later if we have the time. And I'm here joined by Brent, who's our repeat guest. He was on our show last week, so
Thank you for having me back.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for coming over. We're laughing because I'm actually at Brent's apartment where we're recording at his, so I came over instead. But now, on tonight's show, we'll be talking about dieting, the evils of Coca-Cola, also about terrorism and identity and violence, because that's an interesting topic. What else? What else do you want to talk about this evening?
That sounds like you've just covered a huge spectrum of possibilities.
Yes, and it's really opened the doors. So, now we'll start with identity and violence, and how it relates to, tangentially in a way, to terrorist attacks, and how they might be inside jobs, which our friend Brent seems to think that a few of them are. Anyway, is that right?
You caught me at a bad moment because I didn't have the chance to do the research to back up my claims. I guess we could do it while we were having this conversation.
Absolutely.
But I think I started by saying false flags, and false flag is a very interesting idea. It's a simple idea. It's like if a navy of one country wants to attack another country while diverting blame from itself.
Yes.
Like the American Army. No, let's take a real example. Let's take... I can't remember the name at the moment, but maybe it will come up. The Israeli Army attacked... the Air Force, the Israeli Air Force attacked the American Navy.
Right.
For several hours, I think it was something like 14 or 17 hours off of the coast of Egypt, in order to get America involved in a war against Egypt.
Oh.
So they were flying flying planes that had Egyptian flags on them.
Yes.
Egyptian identification. But at the same time, it was the Israelis who were sending out the planes to attack. So this is a false flag attack,
right?
Literally. And the idea is to divert blame on another nation or another group.
Yes.
Or another individual, perhaps.
So when did this happen? Because I'm not at all familiar with this incident.
The USS Liberty.
Right.
And I am looking it up over the internet as we speak. USS Liberty.
So that
false flag.
Okay.
Attack. Oops, I misspelled false. Failed Israeli false flag attack against the USS Liberty. Cover up. Wikipedia. Do we trust Wikipedia?
Yeah, it's actually surprisingly reliable. So 1967, during the Six-Day War. Well, it's a good thing that the war only lasted for 6 days, right?
The shorter, the better.
Yes.
Not like these extended wars nowadays that they're supposed to last for 18 months and they go on for decades.
Yeah.
Do you know that the war in Afghanistan has lasted longer than the war in Vietnam?
That's... Well, the weird thing is that these wars have lasted longer than World War II, for example, which didn't last that long, and totally changed the world. And there was a resolution at some point. Here, it's like, okay, there is no... It's like, okay, so now people are just fighting because that's what happens there now.
Yeah, it's sort of the attitude has changed, of course, because if it's been going on for so long, it's... What is it? There's a special term for it that I will come up with later.
Okay.
Which is the idea of normalcy. I mean, if it's been around, if it's been in existence for 20 years, then people just, I mean, of course, the younger generation that grew up with it.
That's what they know.
And it's just like, that's just reality. They never question it.
Yeah.
They don't have reason to question it. They're not taught to question it.
Yeah.
And so it's just a reality. It's just like, oh, well, the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims have been at war for hundreds of thousands or hundreds of years, you know. But people just accept that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that that's true. I mean, in fact, I think if you take Iran or if you take certain societies in Syria and Libya, there are multicultural societies where they've lived in peace for hundreds of years, hundreds or thousands maybe. And it's just we or the media or somebody has an agenda to push this idea to divide and conquer, I believe.
Okay.
So again, the Balkanization thing that we hit upon.
You seem to be implying that religion is behind a lot of these conflicts, or at least used as some form of motivation.
Precisely used. I mean, whenever there is a political conflict, whenever there is a politician or some banker or somebody who wants to start a war, they have to get the people behind them, and one of the easiest ways to rally people is to call upon religion.
Right.
And to say, oh, we must unite against the Muslims or the Jews or the Christians or the Sikhs or the Sunnis or, you know. I think that religion gets a bad rap.
Yes.
And I say this because I grew up in the church. My father was a pastor, a Southern Baptist pastor.
Whereabouts in the U.S.?
In California.
California.
But where there are a lot of Southerners, a lot of Okies, we call them, from Oklahoma and Texas and so forth.
They came over during the Dust Bowl period?
Exactly.
Wow.
Precisely.
That's cool. That's like real history.
Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah. Regarding religion being behind a lot of the world's conflicts, this relates to the idea of identity and violence, which is a book by Amartya Sen, Nobel Prize winner, 1997, I believe.
Yeah, you were just telling me a little bit about it. Yeah.
And it does relate to these terrorist attacks. So, what the main argument is that. How we place importance on certain elements of identity, either leads to or prevents conflict. So one of the examples that he took was for the 7/7 bombings in the UK, and these British Muslims they caused these terrorist attacks on the 7th of July, I guess.
The book was published in which year?
I don't know.
I thought you said...
Yeah, late 2000s.
Okay, 2007 or something.
Yeah, afterwards.
7/7.
Yeah. What he was saying was quite interesting, because these guys, they had various various elements of their identity. They're British citizens, they were raised in the UK, from Muslim families, from Pakistan, I guess, and all of these things, and so how much importance did they place on different elements of their identity? And they were like, we're Muslim above all, this type of Muslim, so what we're going to do is fight for this cause, and one of the tools for this cause would be to blow themselves up in this situation. He also relates it to what happened in the South Indian continent. So the British government came in and they decided that Muslims and Hindus could not live together. So they formed these two countries, which was, Pakistan and what is now Bangladesh, which have Muslim majorities. But India still has a huge Muslim population. And this caused mass migrations. And so these people who'd lived in peace for centuries, suddenly they're like, okay, yeah, I'm Hindu, you're Muslim, or vice versa. Okay, therefore, you're not good. So this difference caused a certain anonymity, and anonymity often leads to negative feelings towards another. And you can see the same thing in Northern Ireland. You have Catholic against Protestant.
Anonymity or isolation?
Anonymity.
Anonymity?
Yes.
How were they anonymous?
Because you feel as though you know them less well, because it's like, okay, I was raised a certain way, this is who we are, and then, okay, so they must be different in some ways, since,
so you separate the population, and then you expect them to, because they don't know each other anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, that sort of normalcy. It's sort of, they grow up knowing them as some sort of foreign entity.
Yes. Yeah.
Not as a neighbor.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
Exactly. And you see this time and time again. Now, not all conflicts are caused by this. Because you look at history and, okay, yes, you do have a lot of countries which did declare war on one another for different reasons. Political motivations, land. For instance, look at Crimea. Or national pride sometimes. So not necessarily due to religion, but I think that it is one element that could motivate conflict or war, ultimately.
I suppose I see your point, and I think that it could. I just don't think that most people would attack their neighbors because they're of a different religion. I mean, most people want harmony. Yeah. And even if you have this nasty neighbor who's always causing conflict, for whatever reason, whether it's nationality, of course,
But why is it that person is annoying you? For instance, they could be it could be a homosexual neighbor, for example.
Well, it depends on how loud the parties are, perhaps.
Okay. But, if he invites you to his parties.
I think that is a very neighborly thing to do.
Yeah.
Although I don't invite most of my neighbors to my parties.
No? All right.
Well, they're maybe 20, 30 years older than I am, so.
Okay. It's understandable. So, there are all sorts of reasons which could be behind these conflicts.
Well, I think what I was going to say is I think that the neighbors that I have had conflicts with are usually
Was it because of religion?
No, it's nationality.
Yeah.
Which is just another excuse.
Absolutely.
Ošte един повод на български. So it's just another excuse a way to unify people and a way to divide people.
Yes.
As you say, identity. That's very interesting. So what is our identity formed by? This is the interesting point.
Yeah.
Parents,
yes.
Religion, school, the state,
and
media.
And how do we form our own identities? Because you can choose in a way. You can choose.
Ideally, that's what being human is the ability to choose what you believe and how you think and what you share with others. People would prefer to conform in most cases because it causes less conflict. Well, that's an interesting point.
So yes, you're right. I mean, it can lead to harmony because you don't have this common identity, and it's like okay. So you can sing, Kumbaya around the bonfire.
I think that people in general are afraid of what is foreign to them.
Which is...
And that can be exploited so easily by anybody who has any propagatory power, anybody who can teach or preach or give you a message over the TV or the radio.
Yeah. But this feeling is perfectly natural because it's like, okay, if you don't know what it is, it's better to err on the side of caution.
Yes, which is very human, of course. Absolutely.
Because, this is, self-preservation, right? Okay, so there's this creature that I've never seen before. There's a 50% chance that it's a predator or
especially if it's bigger
prey. It could be smaller than you. Some strange spider walks into your house.
Sure, anything weird looking.
Yeah. So
it doesn't have 2 legs. Speak my language. Pray to the same God that I do.
Yeah.
And carry the same flag on my back, etc.
Yeah.
Then it's a little bit weird. Maybe we should stomp it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, once you become familiar with it, then it's like, oh, actually this one's okay. Because, for instance, you walk down the street, you're not going to say hi and smile to everyone.
Depends on which society you're in.
Well,
some people like to smile, some people don't.
Well, if you live in a small village where everyone knows one another.
Then you're frowning because you know them.
So familiarity breeds contempt.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
All of these things are true. Of course, in society, you can almost imagine any combination of these different attitudes.
Right.
And of course, most people do want to live in harmony. But maybe harmony means non-violence.
Yeah.
Like, don't step on my toe and I won't step on yours. And I think that societies were traditionally set up in this way, and there were rules.
Yes.
Like the 10 Commandments is the perfect example, or there are probably millions of others. Where it's just, if you want to live in harmony in society, there are certain things that you do not do. You do not aggress upon your neighbor.
Not for no reason, anyway.
Well, in self-defense. You don't do it as an aggressor. Yeah, you do not aggress upon others. Or their property. And if you do, then you should be able to suffer the consequences.
Yeah.
Be willing to.
Absolutely. Don't play
but nowadays, with religious and national ideologies, we are so easily swayed in one direction or the other. I mean, I've been a skeptic of my own government for decades.
Right.
Which is one reason that I'm here. I didn't like the situation. I didn't like the social setup in the United States. I don't like the fact that dumbing down is just a daily practice. And that if you speak out, if you have a different opinion, then somehow you're a racist or a sexist or an ageist or a religionist or what? I mean, whatever you want to call it. There's always these means of
it's because
casting a person as an outsider and saying you must conform or else.
Yes. And oftentimes we don't dig deeper and find out, their true motivations, what led them to that decision, what reasoning are they using, what is their point of view.
Again, I go back to who is the propagandator of the information, and of course it's very complex, and you have teachers, parents, your parents' teachers, and your parents' parents, and your teachers' parents, and their pastors, or their rabbis, or their, you can go on and on and on, but when you see what do most people believe, and where do they get their information from?
That's a very good question.
To me, that's the central question here.
But also, you have the power to choose whether to follow in the way of your parents, teachers, society, or not. So why would someone choose not to conform?
Now that opens up a different can of questions.
Yes.
Because psychologically speaking, I'm not so sure that that's true. We tend to turn out the same way our parents were.
Yes, we do.
Even though there is a stage in which we say, "I will never be like you."
Yes, that's during our teens generally.
Yes. But usually, psychologically speaking, we usually end up being almost pretty good carbon copies of our parents. And that has to do with a complete different question. But maybe it's not a different question. It is the same question. So your parents believe a certain thing because of their parents or their pastor or their rabbi or their teachers or whoever.
Yeah.
And you grow up in that environment. It's the same thing as normalcy, what we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
It's just that there are ways of reacting. Actually, it's very interesting. I teach this to my students in class. I say,
So you're an English teacher, not a philosophy professor.
I do teach English. It is more practical, perhaps, than trying to teach philosophy classes. But if you go to the park, when it's a nice day, you're going to see a young mother with a 2 or 3 year old daughter, and she has a stroller. I'm sure that there's a different word in British English. Pushchair.
Yeah.
For her 2 or 3 year old daughter. And her own 2 or 3 year old daughter has her own daughter, her doll. With its own pushchair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, children from the age of 2 or 3 are already she's learning how to be a mother.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And
what are little boys
that's
doing?
the way we learn, right? We learn how to be our fathers.
Yeah. So we just play around with toys.
Absolutely. Makeup games, cowboys versus Indians.
Yeah. That's why all of these companies are in place. It's just an elaborate game.
And then, of course, if you're in a position where you can spread your message, then you can manipulate this.
Yeah. That's right. But you will want to spread your message as well, because what I believe, I don't know if this is a term yet, but autonormative. So I place myself as, the measuring stick.
Of course. I think we all do that, actually. Yeah? Right. Unless we're suppressed or we're depressed or we haven't expressed our personalities enough.
So as a result, what happens is like, okay, because I'm the norm, it's like everyone else should be like me.
And if they're not like me, then
they're wrong.
Of course. But, that is a rather juvenile point of view, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, I think if you say, like, as people mature, whatever this means, as they grow older, usually isn't there... Maybe children are even better at this than we are as adults. Is that they're interested in new things,
That's right.
Oh, what is that bug? They're not afraid of spiders or whatever. Yeah. They're like, what is that? So, maybe there are just different stages. Maybe there are 7-year cycles or 9-year cycles or something. Who knows?
So you have an explorative phase and then
of course,
kill all the others phase. Yeah.
There must be both sides in the human person. It's a pendulum, isn't it?
Pendulum. Okay.
Going from one extreme to the other, and eventually it's going to come to rest.
Right. I see.
But it doesn't have. If you try to stop the pendulum, it's going to cause.
Yeah. That's right.
I don't know. Some people are more conservative. Also, some people are more afraid of anything that is different. And some people like to explore. Some people like to travel.
That's right.
And I think that's why both of us are here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that people also of different beliefs and different backgrounds can also come together and have a common topic. And maybe that's the best point of this conversation, is not how we are divided, but how we can actually, meet and get along and enjoy diversity, recognize it and celebrate it.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like a Discovery Channel. Hey, we haven't pumped anybody tonight. Maybe Discovery Channel would be a good.
And this is also brought to you by UNESCO because of, of this world peace message.
I don't trust the UN at all, but
okay. But okay, so it's not brought by UNESCO anymore. They've just pulled their funding. But you
can edit that.
Yeah. But the Discovery Channel. What can you tell me about the Discovery Channel? It's a fantastic network, isn't it? It's a channel. It's a fantastic television channel, isn't it?
It's the best channel that I never watch anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I threw out my television set 10 years ago.
Wow.
So.
I don't watch television anymore. I don't have time for that.
Why watch television when you can choose your own propaganda?
Yeah. Indoctrinate yourself, right?
Yes. I mean, the internet may be full of crazy ideas and conspiracy theories, etc., etc., but at least you can listen and you can say, hey, this guy makes sense. This guy sounds logical.
Yeah. And you can always find a different point of view. I think it was I saw a video of what's that guy on Fox News?
Which one?
The old one.
There are many old guys on Fox News.
He's like
the horrible or the okay guy, or
he's one of the horrible ones.
Dang, I hate those people. I can't. My memory is censoring them because I don't want to think of them.
All right, it's probably best if he remains unnamed. But the incident was, they're talking about how a lot of people are getting their news off Facebook, and he was like, no, this is impossible. Why would they? And he was trying to explain, the whole phenomenon of Facebook to this other old guy. And the old guy was like, yeah, so on Facebook you have friends, in inverted commas, inverted brackets, like your friends.
Quotation marks for the American listeners.
Who send likes, once again in quotation marks, to your videos. and this guy was like, oh, you have this whole generation who are misinformed, they don't know what they're getting. And this is somebody talking from Fox News, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is a bit ironic, but yet there are still people who still take only their Facebook inputs from Fox News, so it is funny though, because you can inform yourself, but so many people choose not to.
No, well, it's easier not to.
Why not just listen to? Why not just dance and listen to music? Or jokes, or comedy shows. It's a lot more. It's a lot funner that way.
That's right. And a lot of people do advise against reading the news altogether. Because it's like, okay, well, what can you do about it? What can you do to affect what's happening outside? Really?
Well, these people do not believe in the power of education.
Oh no, they do. I mean, one of these individuals is Nassim Taleb, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to bother reading the news. He's a professor at Columbia, I believe, and he spends a lot of time, in the mountains as well. So.
Okay, that's fair.
And he was a investment manager. So, when he was making these investments, he didn't read the news. He just looked at the fundamentals. It was like, okay, is this a good investment or a bad investment? Because you can't really predict the future. He's behind the Black Swan, the book, the Black Swan.
Okay.
So
Black Swan events.
Yes. And because these Black Swan events are so unpredictable, and they could affect your situation anyway, and by their very nature they're not predictable. It's like, okay, there's no sense in reading the news because it could change tomorrow.
It's hard to say. I think I was trying to remember this quote by Mark Twain, I believe, where he said, if you don't read the newspaper, you are uninformed. If you read the newspaper, you are disinformed.
Yeah.
Or misinformed. One of the two. I don't know. Yeah, and you always have to weigh this. You have to consider the source, and you have to consider their logical abilities, or whether they're trying to manipulate you. Because there's a lot of manipulation out there.
Absolutely.
And I try to stay away from the people who are trying to manipulate, and I try to focus on the people who are trying to educate. And I try to do the same in my conversations with others, and I think that's a value that I've chosen.
Yeah.
And not everybody chooses these values, and of course there is room for other opinions.
Okay, brilliant. So I think that's enough time on this general topic. So
have we covered enough topics this time? We didn't even cover what you
dieting
brought up at the very beginning.
Yeah, no, we did cover conspiracy theories, I think. Well, we raised false flags at one point, talked about identity and violence and everything relating to that. So now we'll go on to one of the original topics, which was dieting. So why is Coca-Cola not good for you?
I'm not going to speak for myself because I don't drink Coca-Cola. So I guess I have to speak for other people. I don't even want to say don't drink it. If you want to drink it, drink it. But it's a choice.
Right.
And people, if you take drugs,
right,
or if you eat something, ingest something, drink something, then you should probably be familiar with what the possible effects and side effects are.
Yeah.
And so I think people should inform themselves. I think it's their responsibility to do so.
Right.
But what I can say is that I think I'm just going to repeat myself here, is that in India, they use Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola as insecticides because they're cheaper than the Monsanto or the other GM products, GMO. So, I mean, it just tells you something. And then if you watch the videos on YouTube, you can look up anything about Coca-Cola, boiling it, or using it to clean your toilet or your engine casing or whatever. So, I mean, inform yourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, you should drink 7-Up. Cool, refreshing 7-Up.
7-Up is the best, especially when the Serbian Special Forces are spray painting it on the inside of ruined homes in Kumanovo, Macedonia.
Yes. So you can listen to our previous podcast. This is some shameless self-promotion too, for more information on that. And
we're getting in touch with the 7-Up representatives.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Because 7-Up is really good. It's good for you.
It's very refreshing.
It's got 7 vitamins.
And it doesn't have any corn syrup in it at all. None.
Right. So actually, let's talk about that. So you can't eat corn, right?
Oh, I have a very specific diet. Basically, I'm supposed to avoid everything that has starch in it.
Right.
Which is very unfortunate. If you want to be a vegetarian, that means that you can't eat potatoes, rice, pasta.
Yeah.
What else? That's a lot.
Yeah.
Bread, wheat, anything. So it's sort of like the gluten diet.
Yeah.
The no gluten diet.
But you can drink beer.
But I can drink beer.
Awesome. And this is because you have a medical condition, but we won't get into that.
Well, it's, I don't know if I want to, well, sure, why not? Educate the public about ankylosing spondylitis. It's a crazy, autoimmune, progressive, chronic disease that affects the joints.
Yeah.
And not just the joints, but other membranes and tissues in the body. But the basic idea is that it fuses joints, fuses the cartilage between the joints. And I forgot the word in English. Succogilia is ligaments. So they sort of like become bone. They become calcified.
Oh.
And it all hinges upon this crazy bacteria called Klebsiella that is in the gut, and it feeds off of starch.
Right.
So you try to limit your diet, and hopefully your autoimmune system doesn't attack yourself as much.
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, it could ultimately lead to some form of paralysis. You can't move, seeing as your bones are stuck together.
Yeah, they call it bamboo spine. So the people in the worst condition, they can't move their necks or their backs at all.
Yeah.
Or their hips.
Oh. Okay, brilliant. So I think that it's time to bring the show to a close.
It has been smashing.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks for joining us again, joining me, Brent.
Thank you, Daniel, for coming.
Okay, thank you for having me. And unfortunately, Josh isn't here. He's in Istanbul, as previously mentioned. Because he's American, they make his visa situation really complicated.
This sounds very strange, and I want more details. But we're sending out positive vibrations to Josh, and he's enjoying himself anyway. He says it's better there than it is in Sofia.
Excellent.
So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're shaking our hands here. Yeah.